For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from Cape Town, South Africa. Good morning, Michael.
Morning. This is the last trading day of 2022, and there was a bit of a rebound on Wall Street yesterday, and that's carried through marginally to the Asia Pacific markets. The Shanghai up about 0.6%, Hong Kong up about 0.8%, but, and this is the big but as far as China's concerned, COVID infections, as far as we can tell from outside, are surging. The big problem is that the Chinese authorities have declined so far to say exactly what the scale of the COVID surge is. And so therefore there's a lot of debate about what's going on in that country. I'll come on to that in a second because there are important implications as far as airlines are concerned. But let's turn our attention meantime to the United States, where the jobless claims came in yesterday, this for last week, slightly higher than expected. Wall Street averages, of course, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, this is the worst year since 2008. Sticky inflation, aggressive rate hikes and so on. Growth stocks like tech stocks, down about 33%. But the Dow had, rather surprisingly, its best quarter. These are traditional stocks and traditional trading, best quarter since the second quarter of 2020, but that's not saying an enormous amount. There is wondering whether or not the US can pull off, therefore, a soft landing next year. You wouldn't think so, but it has to be said that the large-scale infrastructure which plans and projects which Joe Biden has managed to get through both houses may have a say in that. But just to emphasize tech stocks, Amazon lost half its value this year, down 51%, but not as bad as Meta, down 66%, and Tesla, of course, down 68%, which we touched on yesterday. Twitter, now we think this is pre-Elon Musk, but Twitter is in a data protection probe at the moment. The Irish Data Protection Commission, the Ireland Data Protection Commission, rather, because that's where Twitter's European headquarters are looking into what's happened there. It looks as though there's a $200,000 ransom at stake and so on. But this is felt to be pre-Elon Musk, although Twitter was supposed to have fixed the breach, and clearly something has actually happened there. As far as global M&A activity, deal making is concerned, there's been a sharp fall in that, a record fall, because of rising interest rates. I give you the figures. So in the first 6 months of 2022, the deal-making figure was 2.2 trillion. In the last 6 months of 2022, the deal-making was 1.4 trillion. So it's quite a fall there. And junk markets, of course, therefore fairly well frozen, and that's not allowing private equity to proceed in the way it could at the moment. So just to continue with that, the China COVID thing, UK and France both are not necessarily going to follow Italy and other countries with banning or rather asking China arrivals from China, no matter what their nationality, to actually prove that they have a negative COVID test on them. The United States is bringing that into force on January the 5th. There may be more meetings today as far as the UK is concerned, but at the moment the cabinet and the Prime Minister, as far as the UK is concerned, are very much against any kind of COVID lockdown. But again, it depends on the numbers, basically. As far as the UK is concerned, the strike, according to the government, the striking unions are probably going to run out of money. They'll have to back down, and the government at the moment is not backing down, but maybe the unions may have to back down over their call for higher pay. They think that they will run out of money by the spring. The unions have said this is a cheeky move by the government, and they've got plenty of funding, but we shall see. It's worth looking at that one. And also sterling had its worst year. It's down more than 10% on the year. Dovish calls, dovish attitudes, maybe from the Bank of England, much more aggressive Fed rate rises, ECB rate rises too, and a recession, all a possible recession Depends how deep it is, of course, but all that really bad news for sterling, so it could go down further. I'm going to talk about oil and gas very, very briefly. Gas prices have returned to pre-Ukraine war levels, around about €77 per megawatt hour, as opposed to that high that it reached when that invasion actually took place of 345. And oil prices basically are volatile because of the uncertainty about China. Should China be shown to be recovering, then the oil price will increase. And finally, a message about gold. This shown the fastest, central banks are buying it up at the fastest rate since 1967. Those with long memories and those with academic backgrounds may remember that 1967 was the year when the gold standard against which the value of the dollar was placed against the value of gold, the Bretton Woods agreement all those years ago, actually finally ended and the dollar floated free. Central banks are buying basically because there's mistrust, doubt and uncertainty around. That is the global view on the final trading day of 2022.
And I just want to say Happy New Year to you as we look forward to the new year 2023. It's been a year, 2022, final trading day, as you say it is. But it was a year where we had less deals being made. Are you bullish about 2023 vis-a-vis the fact that there's a slump in the UK economy? America is on a rebound, with inflation numbers trickling down, but I see a lot of uncertainty and tightening in the Eurozone. What will be the prospect for businesses and new deal making? Because it was a slow year, and also the outlook as regards the war going on.
Yeah, I think that the outlook for 2023 is very uncertain. It doesn't take a genius to get to that sort of conclusion. I was reading one particular piece today that was saying actually the greatest quality that investors can have is cautious optimism, and I think that's probably what we're going to see in 2023. I think that the bigger moves we're going to see are perhaps the UN being shown the sort of useless organisation it is, but actually what we're probably seeing as a result of the war and as a result of COVID and a result of China too is maybe a resurgence of democracy. Now, say what you like about it, and everybody does sort of veer towards authoritarian regimes in their life, but democracy appears to be the least worst system right now, and I think a growth in that may well be something that we see in 2023. There are lots of uncertainties, and just because a calendar date changes doesn't mean to see those uncertainties change or the world becomes a better or indeed a worse place. But I do feel as though China and inflation probably are the two most important things. And I'm not dismissing the war at all, but I'm saying if you're asking me for two, I'd say China and inflation are the most important don't knows about 2023. And I think when we have a clear idea of where China is actually going right now, will it be replacing the United States as the primary economic force in the world by mid-century or not? Who knows? But I feel as though once we know what inflation is going, whether central banks are actually doing what they ought to be doing and bearing down on it and trying to bring economies into a soft landing, those are the sorts of directions I'd like to be able to see resolved in 2023. Whether they will, I don't know.
All right, now going to the Twitter data link, the claim is that about 400 million data by the Ryushi hacker is said to be in the custody of Ryushi hacker. Now, even though, as you said, it was Musk's time at Twitter, he still is the current CEO of Twitter and should respond. As at the time of the report, I believe that Twitter hadn't yet responded. However, Ireland, where their Europe headquarters is, has responded saying that they would investigate. Do you see them incurring a fine like Meta did? What is Twitter's fate in this?
Well, I think that if this proves to be the case and they've not fixed the original flaw that there was in their data protection system, then it's very bad news for Twitter generally, because people particularly well-known people don't necessarily want their personal details revealed, as is being threatened now, and as this ransom of $200,000, as I understand it, is still in play. I think it's an unfolding story. It does actually underline the fact that social media and everything along with it is the new gold, isn't it? It's the new currency. Actually, the gold's a bad example. Just say the new currency, for better or worse. Of the world right now, and unless it's actually seen to be fixing this, and as you quite rightly say, we've had no indication from Twitter whatsoever. I feel as though it's looking to me more like a company that's adrift right now. But it's apparently this data has nothing to do with the Elon Musk takeover. It happened before that all. So there's so much uncertainty up there. It doesn't bode well. Let's put it like that. It's not something that most investors, I think, would probably look at right now.
Well, on the sharp plunge in deal making, down 38% in 2022 from the same time in 2021. The reasons, you have already identified them. But the report that I read indicated that, yes, maybe down 38%, but there have been better deal making in the area of sports. Well, why that is so, I guess it's obvious. But the things I want to, I would like you to address. One, yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu was sworn in as Prime Minister of Israel. Sixth time that he will be Prime Minister. But he's leading this time the most right-wing coalition in the history of Israel. Now, businesses are nervous that the anti-discrimination law will be removed, and the right-wing nationalists and religious parties are just, extremists. And in fact, Mahmoud Abbas says this is a return to extremism and apartheid. Now, what would this mean for economic growth in that region? Second, Paul Krugman, Nobel laureate economist, says Tesla is like Bitcoin because Tesla has the electric vehicle market has no external network connections, the type you have with Amazon or Apple or Microsoft. So is Tesla truly like Bitcoin? And then yesterday, President Biden assented to the $1.66 trillion government spending bill. Well, one part of it has to do with TikTok. The ban on TikTok being used by government agencies. Do you see the possibility of a nationwide ban on TikTok for security reasons in the United States, as have been indicated by the House of Reps when earlier this week the House of Reps took a decision to ban the use of TikTok on government appliances?
I don't know the ins and outs of Israeli politics, and I don't particularly want to be drawn into political comment as usual about that. As far as the economy is concerned, I think that Israel is a continuing miracle, quite honestly. It's surrounded by hostile states. You know what its views are internationally, and I would have thought that anything to do with the hard right is probably good for the economy. Whether you think it's a good idea is another thing altogether, but I don't see any other reason. I can't see why it wouldn't thrive. Tesla, again, who knows what professors of economics think about this. I would draw your attention instead to the manufacturers of lithium, who think that Tesla is probably quite a good bet, and Tesla and the whole EV market is actually growing quite fast. I mean, growing much faster than the surrounding infrastructure, which is, I don't know what it's like in your country, but in the UK and in where I am in South Africa, you'd go a long way before you actually see vehicle charging points, and I think the same is happening around the world. So Tesla itself, I think, is probably quite a good idea. What they have not fixed is that they've applied old-fashioned auto manufacturing to what is basically an iPad with wheels. I mean, that's what a Tesla is. And if you feel as though the future is Tesla, then you will invest in the company. I think think the future is about electric vehicles, and I think the key to it is becoming a gathering infrastructure and also a cheaper purchase price. As soon as they achieve that, and of course longer battery power as well, as soon as those things are achieved, then I think it will be something which a lot of investors will be looking at quite happily. As far as Elon Musk is concerned, I mean that's the problem, isn't it? What he plans to do with that, whether it's attention with SpaceX, whether it's with Tesla, whether it's with Twitter, and so on. It's very, very difficult to know which way it's going. But provided it keeps its production targets up, and provided the cars themselves become cheaper, I think it's probably quite well placed.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael Wilson. Thank you very much indeed. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Udiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Elon Musk was born in South Africa, so I'm going to throw him in here. Paul Krugman is wrong about Tesla, okay? Yes, because Tesla, Tesla Energy, let me just inform everybody right now, Tesla Energy is the next step for this company. It's not just about electric vehicles. The vehicles are actually, there's a unit, although they haven't disaggregated it in their financials yet as to its potential, but they are going to become an energy company in the future. And unfortunately, it's these Twitter things that have distracted people and made the stock fall. But look out for Tesla Energy. And I love Paul Krugman. He's actually one of my favorite economists. I read his columns all the time in the New York Times, but he's wrong about them. So still, on the updates, this headline, I know Mr. Ifini will get to it, but I think everyone's got to pick this up. Everyone already reads this day, but this is a stunning headline. We've delivered on all our campaign promises. I'm wondering how the business community feels about this in terms of their cost of doing business, in terms of the business environment, in terms of the impact on profits with respect to the economy. That is a stunning headline. This is obviously the last Africa Business Update for 2022. So, I was looking ahead to the future. I put together a little wish list. Holding leaders more accountable for inflation, e-passports, 24 online visa approvals, looking at the African Continental Free Trade Area and so on. Facial recognition tech, not just in government agencies, but even in the private sector. A truly cashless economy, and then we've had this discussion before on e-voting. Look, I found something from Budget. Look at this interesting quote from Budget. This was January of 2022. When we go into 2022, congratulations, you've made it into 2022 and have survived multiple straight weeks in Nigeria's wobbly economy, afflicted with the dreaded double-digit inflation, making it one of the worst 20 economies out of 196 in the world. This was 2022. Wow. We're just going to 2022. All right.
And the story is not changed.
It has not changed.
It's the same.
They said, congratulations, you made it, and multiple straight weeks in the world because afflicted with the dreaded inflation, making it one of the worst 20 economies of the world. Yes. And then next up, they now said there's a part here where they talked about Joe Biden and the fact that Biden in his other economy, comparatively, with an inflation rate, okay, we've jumped ahead. But anyway, with an inflation rate of 15.4% in Nigeria, which is twice as worse as the United States, President Muhammadu Buhari is living the baby boy lifestyle, seeing as there is no commensurate outrage at him for the soaring prices of food and other consumer goods. And they said, no, be juju that. There was supposed to be a quote where they were dragging Biden last year, and there was a hashtag that said Biden inflation. Inflation at that time was 7%, right? And I think right now it's up to 8 or so. But the whole matter of making leadership more accountable for inflation has got to be there. E-passports, let me show you this headline from Finland. Digital passports, Finland set to test a mobile app that will let passengers travel paper-free. And I think there's a quote here where they say, if we take a look at that quote, they said Finland could become the first country in the EU to trial a mobile app with digital copies of travel documents. The country has expressed its eagerness to test out a phone app that would hold digital copies of travel documents instead of traditional paper passports. With this new tech, passengers could send information to border authorities before they go abroad. According to reports in the Finnish newspaper Helsingin Sanomat, the European Commission reached out at the end of 2021 to ask if the country would be willing to participate. So this was a pilot program that was put forward by the European Commission. Why do we have to read about these things from Finland? Why can Africa, look, you've got the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. You need to make travel as easy as possible. Think about ECOWAS and the no need for a visa there. Why do you need a paper passport? If you can be verified online, okay, let me even go into the visas. You apply for a visa, you want to travel, right? You can verify someone's information online. You can verify where they work if they send a letter from their employer. You can verify date of birth and all these other biometrics. Why should a visa application take so long? It's baffling. Can we move forward on this? In 2023, dear Africa, what's next? What else did I have on my list? I think I had mobile money, or did I have? I think facial. Okay. Facial recognition tech. Every single one of us has a camera on our phone. This is across the entire. This is Alipay. This one, it says smile to pay. You can actually use facial recognition tech to smile to make a payment for something. So if you think about e-commerce transactions, government officials being able to, in Lagos we have CCTV cameras. I have never once in my entire time of being in Lagos heard of news where the Lagos government used CCTV cameras to actually nail somebody that committed a crime somewhere.
Well, I think in terms of the vehicle
license plate,
yes, license plate.
Where you get a letter for running a red light.
Yes,
but they should advance this. So the whole point is that as far as facial recognition tech is concerned, linking that with your identity and then linking that with a visa application, linking that with a biometric passport, Africa can lead here based on what we're trying to do within our own boundaries. We do not have to hear about Alipay in China. We do not have to hear about Finland wanting to push these things with the EU Commission. We can move forward. That's part of my wishes. And then mobile money. Well, look, cashless economy, mobile money. We've touched on that several times. Can we really get there as far as making sure that we are truly cashless, digitizing payments? It will make things really easy. And then, this one, Dr. and Rufai have tackled me on this several times, but I still believe that if you can withdraw money without a card at an ATM and nobody else can duplicate your fingerprints or anything else and take money out, if you can use your mobile phone to identify yourself using telecommunications companies, using BVN banks. I know not everybody has a BVN, I understand that. We can one day vote in elections with mobile phones. It can be done. Now, I know 2023 is too far, it's too close, so forget it. But I don't know, maybe I know there was a pilot program that was practiced. It was either Kano or Kaduna or somewhere. I can't remember which state it was. But this is possible, it can be done. And I guess Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. A couple of things you said right. It is, when I saw the headline that the president said he has fulfilled all his campaign promises, I was just laughing. I put a laughter emoji in my head and I replicated it 1 billion times. Amazing. Hell no. Campaign promises were not fulfilled. A lot of them were failed on. The state of the economy, he promised a better economy. He failed on that. The economy is worse off than it was before he got in. All right? He promised infrastructure. He did some, not completely all of that. Even the infrastructure he did, we know how shambolic some of them have been. And let me raise the issue of this terminal airport, this new terminal that they built here. Cost us over $100 million. But for over how many months, 6 months now, it's not been used because we know that that contract was flawed in the first place. They designed the outlook and everything. Most planes are not coming to land there. The wide body, they can't come into land there. So it's a failure already. All right. So there goes the infrastructure. I hope he completes the second Niger bridge. Kudos to him yesterday. They built the referral hospital in Okene. Very good one. But it's also sad because I heard there was a bomb in Okene. Insecurity to failure. You can't think of what happened with the Kaduna train attack. I hope the security installation, the security surveillance that was supposed to put on the train track, I hope they've been put on the train track because we've not heard anything about that.
Facial recognition.
Facial recognition. So coming back to tech, I think all the things you said are the things we ought to have done even yesterday. You know why? I remember how we used to go to conferences and talk about teleconferencing and things like that until COVID pushed us before we did it. All of these things, e-passport. I mean, because what do you need in your passport? In fact, it's been practicalized. we all had an e-passport during COVID. Shall I
For
tell
the
you?
COVID, the vaccines, right? The
your
vaccine,
and all they needed to scan was your QR code to be able to get your details.
Yeah.
So why can't you put a QR code on your passport that people can scan and they can get all your biometric materials and things like that? So it's been possible, but because of the drudgery of the world and everything, facial recognition is the way to go. Through cashless economy, in all fairness, I think Nigeria has led the way on innovation on this.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, Nigeria is even better than some parts in America. That's, cashless transaction. Yeah. But this is the next Apple and the opening of economy. So I wish Nigeria the very best in 2023. It's a great country with a lot of prospect, and I pray 2023 will open up. But we need to get elections right, get a good leader in there. I'm not saying we can get a messiah. At least let's just get a guy that thinks properly and loves the country. All right, and that is not a thief. That thinks of the country alone. Because you see, one's personal interests and thievery setting, it's all gone.
Right.
Because the problem is that people don't even know that there are even limits to stealing. They steal what their 20th generation cannot spend, and they steal blind for themselves and their crony. We just need a clear-hearted person, good-hearted person, not necessarily a messiah, that has the interest of the country at heart, that thinks properly and is not a thief. Once you put a thief in there, it just ruins everything. How come I jolly jati?
Well said. So just to add to that as well, to fight corruption even more, one of your wish lists, in leveraging what Rufai just mentioned, corruption very big on the agenda for 2023, especially since we're going to be electing a new leader and a new government. Now, some other things to just include for me on your wish list, since it's the end of the year and we can wish, is hopefully we can begin that journey to removing subsidy.
Right.
So in terms of, it's part of the Petroleum Industry Act, however, still not, no leader has had the courage to fully implement. Hopefully we can finally have that in 2023. Also, perhaps we can release unemployment figures in 2023. There's a call for that from the National Bureau of Statistics. We've been wondering why the last time was 2 years ago. If Reuters is asking, let me just include it in case the powers that be are watching and they think, okay, let's take their recommendations and fly with it. And then something I would also like to mention finally, if I hand over to Doc, is that we must also utilize the platforms that the government has provided to report ministries, departments, and agencies that are not working. We have a website. The report Gov was released by the Ease of Doing Business, Department of Ease of Doing Business, and you're meant to go there. And the departments are meant to respond. It's all on your website. But a number of people are not aware of this. If we're going to complain about the inefficiencies of government, we must also be willing to do the work to hold them to account, particularly when a platform such as this has been made available. IMARC was recently released as well. Please let's go on there and monitor. We can criticize it as to whether it's accurate or not, but the first step is actually going there, and then if it doesn't work, we complain.
All right.
Okay, Rotus, I have no problems with your wish list. We're in the age of innovation, of creativity, of technological advancements. What Benjamin Walters calls the technical reproducibility of the age.
Yes.
So as you have advances in technology and all of that, there will be new things in the world. However, Africa is far behind.
Yes.
But we console ourselves by saying Africa is the last frontier. Now, let me take a little of the issues. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is saying he has fulfilled all campaign promises. Well, many Nigerians may not agree with that. But to single out something that he said yesterday, when he visited Kogi State to commission a number of projects. He said the Ajaokuta Steel project will be generating 1.6 billion annually, and our government has invested 400 million, and that dollars, that is, and that the government of Nigeria is going to hand over that project to private companies. That project has turned out to be a white elephant project, despite the good intentions to create, an iron and steel manufacturing hub and to use it to jumpstart the industrialization of Nigeria. But for all reasons Nigeriana, that particular project has not worked. There is no prospect that Ajaokuta Steel Company will work. So many litigations. The companies that were engaged before, so many making claims. President Buhari said, well, they've tried to solve part of the problem. I'm not too sure that all the problems have been solved. Minister of Mines and Steel, Adigbite, I think that's his name. Some of these very quiet ministers that you don't know what they are doing in the cabinet. He was saying that 11 companies are being lined up, to take over the business.
Yes.
Now, what it means is that in the life of this administration, that may not be resolved. So there are people who have been arguing, and they may have a point, that maybe Ajaokuta Steel Company should just be sold as scrap, because it's been one edifice that represents the failure of Nigerian policy-making process.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, as for e-passport, you're asking for digital copies. Okay, maybe we will get there. Don't compare us to Finland. I mean, the comparison will be unfair. We should be talking about Nigerians even getting the booklets, the physical passport.
Exactly.
Across Nigeria, people are talking about how difficult it has become to get the passport. People living in diaspora, they go to Nigerian embassies to even renew their passports. It's an ordeal. I think we'll be happy to just get that passport, which we're told has enhanced features.
Yeah.
So let us get that first before we begin to talk about digital passport. We can get there in the future. Now, visa approvals online. When Nigeria has a visa regime, specifically for investors, for businesses, even for business investors who want to come to Nigeria, short-term, long-term visa regime. So we have that. What we do not have yet is visa on arrival. But if you are talking about Africa generally, they've introduced visa on arrival in Ghana. They have visa on arrival in Rwanda and a number of other African countries. So it will not be right to just generalize and say, oh, visa on arrival is something that should worry about. Mobile money, you are right. That's one of the policy projections of the Central Bank of Nigeria,
Indeed.
To promote inclusiveness, to promote a cashless economy. Other countries have done much better in Africa, like Kenya, like South Africa, like even Ghana. So there is hope for Africa. But your wish list is in order. It may not come to pass in 2023, but Africa will get there.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Rotus.
Thank you so much.